thank you all so much for being here today and just spending time on a Saturday. I know it's really beautiful out, so just prioritizing this to be here and to learn with us around land justice and international land back movements. We have Javi, who is our facilitator today. Woo! And Javi has a lot of knowledge on this topic. I'm just going to read their bio. So Javi is two-spirited Zapotec poet. They migrated from Oaxaca 10 years ago and have been living undocumented and unafraid on Quinnipiac land ever since. Woo! They are a chef and worker-owner of Tortilleria Semilla Cooperativa and a member of Colectiva Semilla de New Haven. Javi is also an avid reader and a student of armed and nonviolent revolutionary movements around the world. And we also have Xochitl Garcia, who is also here to join the conversation and to also share more kind of specific local examples around land back movements and things that we can, like ways that we can take action here in Connecticut. And Xochitl and I have worked together a number of times now. She's also really knowledgeable, has done a ton of work around food justice, environmental justice, land justice, with a lot of different organizations that work with farmers, on environmental issues in the state. So yeah, we're really lucky to have both of them. And I also just wanted to share that this is a 6-part series. So this is the second workshop. We had a Land Justice 101 workshop 2 weeks ago with Vitavia, who's actually here right now. So that was a really great workshop, just an introduction to land justice, the concept and how it shows up here in Connecticut. And the next workshop we'll have is hopefully on planning and zoning. We're still lining up a facilitator for that, but we're hoping to do that in August, and how that kind of lends to land injustice. And then in September 21st, we're having a workshop on the 1% of BIPOC farmers in Connecticut, and that'll be here in New Haven at Common Ground. There will also be a kind of listening circle in the morning for BIPOC farmers to join, and we're stipending them as well. So if you know anyone who might be interested in joining that, just send me an email about that. And then in October in New London, we'll hopefully be having a workshop around community land trusts, and then in November around social housing and land justice. So we hope to see you at more of these workshops, whether it's online or in person. They're rotating around the state, so that's why we also have the virtual option, so people don't have to necessarily travel to different cities, but also we can get folks in person from different parts of the state. So yeah, thanks again for being here.
Muchas gracias, Malana. Thank you so much. Thank you so much all for coming. If you want to take a seat with me, or I can call you later on, because for the first 15 minutes of this space that we'll be sharing amongst all of us, I would like to invite you all to do something that I've seen you already doing, which is very beautiful, and that is getting to know each other, right? Because we're going to be spending a couple hours together, crafting, drawing, painting, writing, putting ideas out there. So it's very beautiful when we can feel comfortable in the space that we are. And the prompt that I had for this part is, when you think about your relationship to land, what are the 3 first words that come to your mind? And you can conversate amongst each other, or you think amongst yourselves, or share. And this is for the tables and then for the people online to share, right? The prompt is, and obviously doesn't have to be 3 words, but that is the prompt. 3 words that come to your mind when you think about your relationship with land. And you have 10 minutes. You can take your time. Invite you kindly to close off your conversations. How are we feeling? What are some things that showed up in those conversations? In my end, with Xochitl, we both realized that there is wounds there, that there is things that are missing personally, I was reminiscing of when I was a little young baby farmer back in Oaxaca, and I was growing squash, beans. I was growing multiple things and having a strong relationship with the land, and how I no longer have that, and now it has actually become a privilege. I would like to actually to hear from you though, like what are things that showed up? Would some people like to participate, especially the people online, if they wanted to say something in the chat, and then I would have Gabi read it, and then I'll go in the people with the people in person. If some things are coming up in the chat, I would like you to read the comment.
Lost was a big theme in one of the groups, and the grief that comes along with it. Relationship with the land, want something I thought most of my life. Oh, great. Desire to have a stronger relationship with the land. But my husband is recently here from Jamaica, and he's farming. That's great. So I'm currently thinking more about the production of food. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, y'all, keep sharing in the chat, and we'll turn it over to the group.
How about the folks in person here? Would anybody like to share to the mic, or if not, also just without the mic, it's fine, but the mic is recording, so if you like your piece recorded, would anybody like to share?
Something we talked about was how the land is a teacher, and one lesson that it teaches us is the cycle of like life and decay, and how there's a balance between the two, and how it teaches us to find meaning in both.
The first word that came to mind was scattered, and then that led to growing, and the last one I used was alma, or soul.
How about you all? Would anybody like to share?
Kind of building off the land as a teacher, also as an organizer, that the land organizes us and changes us, and that we have a responsibility to the land, as well as, you know, it sustains us, and so it's mutual in that way.
How about you all? Would anybody like to share in the group? No pressure if you feel like sharing.
Hello. Not used to this. Some things that came up in our group were this feeling, like the chat mentioned, of loss. I think someone named it as like a chaotic feeling. Some of us have lived in many different places around this continent or other places, and we kind of like played with this idea of playfulness, like that you can play with the land, experiment with it, have like a personal relationship with it, and it like means something different to every person. But I think all of us like shared a sense of like being held or like nurtured, that there's something deeply like caring about the land that we all experience. Yeah.
Somebody else like to share? Go, please.
So this is actually an idea I think came from you, which was we all had this sense of kind of chaos a little bit related to moving around and having many different homes throughout our life, and that makes it sometimes difficult to establish a relationship to the land. but it was mentioned that, you know, home is really the people you're surrounding yourself with and the relationships you're building and the energy you're bringing into a space. And so if you're able to bring that energy and connection, you can start to build homes in multiple places and wherever you land.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to continue on this part now. I appreciate everybody who shared. I think that's beautiful. I think that there's some themes that I can catch on here, and I would like to start the next part of today's program with me and Xochitl having a conversation, which and then we'll invite you all to participate if you feel like it. Like I mentioned before, when I was a baby farmer. From like 1 to 6, I am from this beautiful pueblo called San Juan Bautista Aguelache in the Valle Centrales in Oaxaca. And there I was growing many things. No, I was growing, the most things I remember is corn, beans, squash, you know, la milpa. It was, when I was there, I was not really thinking about it as such a profound thing. It was just natural. It was just my life, what I was doing there. And I was actually conversating with Xochitl about how older folks usually mention how they think of this as labor, necessary labor of taking care of the land for it to sustain us too, and not necessarily as a holy practice, right? Even though it is, but it's not explicit in those settings. At least it wasn't for me. I wasn't thinking of that in that way. And then I moved to the States around 10 years ago, and my relationship with the land changed, right? Now everything I buy from the store, and especially when I arrived, I was eating these fruits that, first thing I noticed, they don't taste the same. They look more like bigger, they look beautiful, but they don't taste the same. And that's something concerning, just right off the bat. The fact that they look beautiful, but they don't taste very good. And this has a lot to do with the genetically modified seeds. And genetically modified seeds are something very related to what I understand as land back, because it has everything to do with this concept of liberalism. And liberalism basically, to summarize a little, means that there is a market and things can be sold in this market, right? Things can be made into a commodity, even seeds. It has come to the point that seeds had been commodified so that these big companies modify their seeds and they registered the seeds as intellectual property, as if seeds were something that somebody can own, which, if you ask me, is a ridiculous idea. You might be familiar with the term NAFTA, the North American Trade Agreement. In the 2000s, when the North American Trade Agreement came into effect, there was also something that happened in southern Mexico, and that was the Zapatista uprising. At this point, the Zapatistas had been organizing in the mountains for over 10 years. It wasn't something that came out of nowhere. It wasn't that the people suddenly took up arms and then started fighting the Mexican government. No. At this point, they had been organizing for 10 years, educating themselves, learning about how to build community, doing mutual aid programs within the communities of the Selva and also the native communities, the indigenous communities in Chiapas. And that's how they grew their organization to the point in which, in the 2000s, when the North American Trade Agreement came into effect, they rose up. And now, many of these native people might have not been versed on the terms of neoliberalism or the invisible hand. They might have not had this language, but they did understand that this was going to affect their ways of lives, that this was going to take something away from them. So in that sense, they rose up. they took up arms and they fought. They fought for 12 days against the military. And what came out of that fight was what we know now as the San Andres Accords. And these accords basically enshrine into the Constitution plurinationalism, which is the recognition of indigenous peoples as nations within a nation. However, the government never recognized those agreements, never put them in the constitutions, and worse than that, never came into effect. The Zapatistas continued fighting. To this very day, as we speak, as I'm saying this, they are still in the mountains of Chiapas, organizing. And they're doing this through alternative economies, through cooperatives, cooperatives of workers who own collectively the property. There is no such thing as private property in their space. And this might sound very difficult, impossible to some even, right? Because at least in this place here in the States, I came to realize that the idea of commonality, the idea of making decisions through consensus, the idea of not having a leader, but having many leaders, was difficult to understand. And that scares me, to be very honest. And all this has to do with land back, because just like the tribes here who have been fighting ever since the start of colonization, ever since the first ships arrived, those people were fighting so that they had their own sovereignty, so that they had their lives. Same the people in Mexico have been fighting. Same the native people in Mexico have been struggling since the beginning of colonization. And the Zapatista struggle is just a show of what that struggle looks like. And I would like to relate this to, for us who have been seeing the news, who have been seeing the blood, to what is happening in Palestine, to what happened too in Rojava. Those people too understood that there was a force coming to take away their ways of being, their ways of life, that was threatening their relationship to land, the ways in which they feed themselves, they grow their food, they take care of each other. And because they understood that there was a threat, they defended themselves in defense of life. It's in defense of life. Very important to note that when we are doing land back, when we are doing these actions, whether it look like starting a cooperative, whether it look like starting a community organization, a community garden, what we are doing is defending life. We are acting in defense of life. Life. Very important to remember this. Thank you. Because when I think of land, I also think of that word, life. I understand that I am life. I'm sustained by the land, and because of the land, there is life. And also, I would like to note that even with those neoliberal economics, and even with all of those companies trying to make the seeds be intellectual property, the people keep rejecting that. Deep down, I understand, and I know that people understand that this is not normal. Things have not been this way forever, and they don't have to. They really don't have to be that way. There is no reason for us to keep this system that is clearly not working for us. So in that sense, in the way of doing things to escape and to create so that there is something that we can defend to, I would like to invite my comrade Xochitl here to speak a little on Save the Sound. Because Save the Sound is a local example of what these comrades are doing with in this specific case, a park, and the importance of people taking back public spaces. And in this very specific case, nature public spaces. Because if we have parks with flowers, we have them because somebody planted those flowers. but I'm going to let Xochitl speak on this.
Thank you, Javi, for your powerful words. I was taking down some notes to make sure I'll remember them. Hi, everybody. I'm Xochitl Garcia, and I am a community leader on behalf of Save the Sound. I've been with them for the last 3 years, working on something called Urban Waters Initiative, which essentially is just a framework where different water-based stakeholders, whether it's like New Haven Water Cleaning Authority, or just people who are working along the watersheds along this river or nearby the river. And essentially, they gathered back in 2020, and they're like, these are some critical points along the Lower Mill River, which is in Fairhaven, and I'll talk a little bit about the history in just a sec, where there is potential, but how do we get people to be and exist there free of charge, aka third spaces? And I came very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not knowing what to do. I was just called on by some people, and they're like, please join our committee. We would like to know more about you. And originally, I was going to do bilingual outreach work, which is technically what I do now, but I've elevated the level of impact that I want to do from my behalf, because oftentimes, and what some committees will do to you if you're too novice is like, oh yeah, you're great at speaking Spanish. Why don't you connect with these people? And that's condescending, first of all, but where I'm trying to go with this is me connecting with another non-English speaking population is not just about communicating basic information, but rather having them access to the spaces and diplomatic decision-making that is made on their behalf. And that's the part people tend to stay quiet about. And I'm very strategic when it comes to being impactful without making it intimidating for others, because sometimes people might confuse me, oh, you're some government official, or you're just trying to extract from me, you're just one of them, just a bilingual speaker. Not at all. When I come to my community and the residents that live within this space, what I come with them is like, how would you want our space, your space, down the street to look like for you, your children, your future generations? That's the part I want to focus on. Not care about percentages or outputs, inputs, government reports. Someone else can handle that job. But for me, I want to create a story and a part of a space where people feel belonged and want to be there, rather than them being just pushed or pressured in existing in that space. So more specifically, Fairhaven is a post-industrial neighborhood. It's so old that it's older than the naming of the city of New Haven itself. It was one of the first colonies in Connecticut, and it's very well, at the time, very well known for its oyster culture, and through exploitation, genocide, colonization, et cetera. Like, there's just been a lot of shifts in the types of industries that's been in this neighborhood, but if it's known for something, it's for the wrong reasons, and it's often stereotyped to gun violence and drug use and homelessness, but that's really oversimplifying the complexity and beautiful, diverse cultures that are there. And when you have an immigrant, BIPOC, non-English dominating speaking populations, of course, the government is gonna systemically neglect it, rightfully so. And so I am addressing that on a microscopic level, because I have to be realistic here. I can only do so much for one person. Is I connect with people like Javi and Fatima and the Sami Collective and other people, where we try to find a common vision and what practices we can do to achieve certain outcomes. So in this case, and I can pass this around, I designed this flyer with my UWI team, where there is a newly constructed park called Haven and Exchange Street Park. It's not very creative or enticing, but the point of this park serves an ecological purpose, which is to be just a giant bioswale, because it's on an incline, and and Fairhaven's very flood prone. There's two rivers, the Mill River and the Quinnipiac River. So due to climate change, they're facing a lot of flooding. So that giant infrastructure park is meant to offset some of the flooding issues that are existing in that area of the neighborhood, but also it's just a accessible green space for them at the same time. However, going back from the history point, if Fairhaven is a post-industrial neighborhood with all these systemic issues, and it's also very working class, blue-collar type of population, having a park is like, okay, and what? What about this? Is this for us? Is this someone's side project? Like, what is this? So trying to create that cultural shift and having them be there. And so with my team and I, we designed an event series where we're just using a creative spin, like, well, having art, music workshops, recycling components. We're just trying to have a little bit a sampling of the different types of activities where people would feel like, okay, so something is going on and it's done by the same people who live in this area or grew up. And this part of one of my series, and I'm kind of advertising a little bit, disclaimer, on Saturday, August 17th, and there's a QR code to know more about this. Saturday, August 17th, I am collaborating with the Drawdown Project, which is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to collecting climate-based stories of people from different communities around the United States. And I was lucky enough to get a spot where they interviewed me about my story, and also like the impact that I'm doing with other people in New Haven. And decided, like, we decided they would come back again, but this time interview more people and be more active, because obviously climate change is a very collective situation here. It's not just somebody is responsible, we're all collectively responsible. It's about just being able to communicate that in a way where you're safe, because oftentimes you can be condoned as you're a rioter, you're already placed these negative connotations as soon as you're speaking about a very real world topic. But at the same time, it's like sometimes climate change can just be something that people perceive very differently. For some, it's dire. For others, people are literally profiting from fear. And how do you communicate that on a platform? And so I want to encourage people to do that. I want to step away from the limelight, because sometimes it's easy for someone like me to just be given the mic all the time. I really encourage others to have it for themselves, especially from different generations and backgrounds. And so on this specific date, I have to finalize the details on the timing and the food, of course, as to what exactly we want to benefit in a long-term way, but also how can we just exist in a space where we can just share our perspectives freely and openly. And so how does this relate to land back? Let me catch my breath for a second. How does this relate to land back? Because it's like I have a lot to say, but I want to make sure I'm communicating. Oh, I gotta say it? Okay. Okay, well, I have my opinions on this park. I know it had its intentions. I'm not gonna say good or bad. It has intentions. However, I think the location, the investment, and just the overall planning is poor. I think the poor, in a sense, in the cultural relevancy to Fairhaven is what I'm referring to specifically, because when you think of a park, oftentimes it's either an abandoned lot that someone or a group of people just renovated, or like the city is taking part of it. Like there's some kind of accountability to the maintenance part of it, but then where's the accountability to encouraging people to come through? So we're always talking about, this is new, everyone come, and it's like, you can only say so much, but where is the connecting part? And that's where my job becomes very complex, because I can encourage people as much as I want, but there needs to be something to have people to want to be there. So this event series reinforces that idea, but there needs to be long-term investment where we have specific funds to have people hired full-time with benefits to be able to be that point of contact, because oftentimes what happens with these parks, when a nonprofit or just the neighborhood people can no longer just take care of it, what happens? It's sent to the city, which is another thing added to their list. and then they had to start cutting corners, and that's where you see a lot of overgrowth and litter, and then you just see all of these systemic problems coming back again when it's pushed onto somebody else. And so I'm not sure how long I'll stick along with this project, because realistically, like, I gotta be paid somewhere else with a higher rate. But I'm doing this out of moral goodness, because I know, as someone who's grew up in Fairhaven, I need to be able to be front and center where I can speak for my people, not on my behalf. I don't like saying on my behalf, because that makes it seem like I'm the one who's gatekeeping all these ideas, but rather be the point who telephones, or the starter or something. Like, there's multiple roles as to why I'm sitting here in front of you all today talking to you about this, but there's others who do care and want to say something. And so connecting it back to the land back point is, land back is also about the collective cultural change that happens in the space, because while we can talk about zoning and regulations and all these bureaucratic procedures that the city loves to talk about and confine you in, we also have to talk about how people are embracing the space and wanting it to be part of their lifestyles. So that's my spiel.
Muchas gracias, Xochitl. How are we feeling? I would like to invite you all now, if you had any thoughts, ideas, things that you like to say, or if you had any questions for Xochitl or for me. For people in the chat, I think Gabi will be taking note, and then if you have a question, please raise your hand, Gabi, and I'll bring the mic over. I think we should start with the people in person now, because so that people in the chat have time to write. Does anybody have a question or a comment?
So thank you both for sharing. And when you're talking about parks and public spaces, it makes me think about something that really struck me. I'm part of an art collective called New Spiral Art Collective, and we got a grant to do murals in underpasses throughout the city. And it's completed now, but our prompt to folks was, what does liberation look like? And like leaning into liberation dreaming. And we were really working with artists who usually didn't have access to mural projects, stuff like that. But most of the submissions and then the murals that were created for folks, what does liberation look like for Black and brown folks and poor folks specifically, were parks. And like, we're outdoor spaces. So like I think all of the murals like feature a park and just people like out in that public space on the land. And that really struck me. I think I wasn't expecting that for what does liberation look like. And then you mentioned like all the zoning and all the rules and like we went through that with the mural project. Like, we primed the wrong side of the underpass, and so we couldn't paint on that side of the underpass, and just like the bullshit, you know? But, and one of them's in Fairhaven on Front Street, down by the river. And so the other thing that I am thinking about is, and I didn't get a chance to share before, but like relationship with land, somebody said. Whenever I move to a new place, one of the things I like to do is literally get to know like the land and the rivers and the different like geographic like features, so that I feel more of a sense of grounding. And the rivers in New Haven and in this area like have such great energy, and like the watershed, and like they bring the ospreys and just like all the nature. We had like, didn't we have sea turtles at one point like over in the river down in Fairhaven? But like, and just all our animal friends, and but the access to those spaces that you're talking about can just be so like limited. And so like inviting people in and having them come, I really appreciate you trying to do that in an intentional way, because we even had that with the mural project, like how to really get people to like be part of this. So I would really love to learn more about how to get involved, and thank you for everything that you shared. Let me stop.
How's everybody else? Thank you. Claro.
So yeah, thank you, Javi. Thank you, Xochitl, because this touches my heart. And I also, when I think on land back, it's also the memoria, like la memoria, that it's decolonize my mind from wherever that comes from the people that came to Mexico. I'm from Mexico, and how the Spaniards erased a lot of our memories, erased a lot of our connection with land. And I was just sharing, remind me your name? With Anna? Nep. About, I remember how my grandfather, he could smell the rain when it was gonna come in his small town in Tlaxcala, San Simon, Tlatlauquitepec. And just trying to connect that with what we have now, that I'm trying to smell the rain now to see if I can do that, and at the same time remembering, I also remember when I was growing up, I was not a farmer in Mexico, but I remember my grandfather and my uncles and my aunts speaking about, necesitamos dejar que la tierra descanse. So we need to allow the land to rest. And during one or two cosechas, they will not grow anything in that piece of land to leave the land to rest. So that's something that resonates to me, leave the land to rest, because sometimes with the capitalism and the colonialism, we don't rest. We don't allow our land to rest. We don't even rest ourselves. And just thinking and connecting that, it's part of me, thinking on land back. And also, I was sharing that they were organizing to gather a community where we can create awareness of where we are right now, that where is the land that we are right now, where are the people that were here, nuestros predecesores y predecesoras, and in a community create conscience to cultivate love, and love to be sustainable where we are right now, reuse what we have, grow our own herbs if you don't have a place where we can grow stuff, and to respect the land where we are at right now, and to respect the soil, the trees, and that means is just bring whatever you bring to a park, and then don't leave it there, bring it with you. So stuff like that is what connects me with land back.
We are a little short on time, but if one more person would like to share in person, do we have anybody else? Over there? Gaby? No, pero Gaby va a hacer el chat. Okay, let's do the chat then.
So Doris shared a somber fact from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, that there are 12 turtle species, 4 of those being sea turtles, that are here in Connecticut. And 9 of those turtles are currently on the list of endangered, threatened species, which is, very sad to hear. And she shared a link, which I'm hoping we can share with other folks.
Okay, thank you. So one more in person would like to share? Please.
You hear the song, Dia de mi suerte? The rest. I just thought about this when we're all talking about our own individual experiences, about how, I don't know where to face, I'm gonna face you. That we have these individual moments that we feel connected with the earth, we feel connected with the spirit, and sometimes it feels very metaphysical as opposed to scientific. And for me, recognizing that all the time that I've spent trying to figure out what would my ancestors have been doing, where did they walk, knowing that my ancestors are not from this land, and feeling disconnected in that way makes it difficult. And that's why the first word was scattered, was because I feel very scattered. I don't know where my ancestors necessarily walked until I started to like do the research. And knowing that while they had their individual experiences, there was like a science behind the collective part of what they were doing. And so those messages, like the more that we get together and we gather, and that's why I appreciate that you said that land back is a collective cultural exchange, is because there's like a scientific part of it that once we get in there, like the messages will become even greater that we receive from the land, and we'll be guided as opposed to having to always try to figure out the answers for ourselves. I feel like that's what has called me back to the work.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's beautiful that you mentioned on where our ancestors come from, because I think it's very important to mention that land back as a concept comes from the native tribes of North America, right? That's where like it originated from. And I agree that the natives are the right stewards of the land. The land should go to them first. The tribes who are enclosed in reservations should get their acres back. I agree. And also, I named this workshop International Land Back because to me, as displaced people, there is a need for us to go back to the land and to that relationship anywhere we are, anywhere we are. Even if it is that we are in a city enclosed within those buildings, there has to be a way for us to find that way back. Because for thousands of years, we had a beautiful and balanced reciprocal relationship with the land, and then they came in the ships. It has been 500 years ago. It hasn't been that long. The earth, it's millions of years old. It's very silly to think that because things have been this way for 500 years, we have to keep there, to stay there. We don't. Things don't have to be this way. They have not been this way forever, and they don't have to be this way. And with that, I'm going to invite you to the next part of the workshop, which we already started, no, with these conversations, with what the 3 words that you started writing, and it's to invite you to discuss at the tables, and then depending on how many people we have in the chat, maybe breakout rooms, to discuss around the questions of if you want to, and for this, if you want to write words, or if you want to start painting or drawing already, you feel free to do so in the manner that you feel like it. But the invitation is to write words, right? To do some thoughts if you want to do it that way. Of course, your creative process is yours, and however you feel comfortable doing it, please do so. And the prompt is, what are the wounds in your relationship here at home and abroad, right? What are those wounds? What are those feelings that come to you when you think about your relationship with the land? When you see the things that are happening in Palestine, in which they even attacking the land. They're burning the olive trees because they understand the importance of those olive trees to the native people, to the Palestinians. They are attacking the olive trees. They're burning it down. They're salting the earth so that food doesn't grow. Those are the wounds that come to me when I think about it. It hurts me. It angers me to think about it. Feel those feelings. Put them out. And for the people in the chat, if you don't have materials to paint, or which I hope you do, but if you don't, write, please. Please, I invite you to grab a piece of paper and a pen and write. And for this part of the agenda, we will have until 2:15. So right now we have around 25 minutes for this. So take your time. You can talk amongst each other, whatever feels comfortable. Thank you. do we open ourselves to feeling those feelings, even those hard feelings at times, maybe? What did we encounter when we were allowing ourselves to pour into our papers or crafting materials? Something that was coming up to me during this time was how much labor it is to many times allow myself to be in a space where I feel uncomfortable, where I feel unsafe, where I feel sad, because I think in this society, and I mean white society, we've been taught that we're not supposed to feel that way, right? That we are supposed to feel good. And I digress. I think grief is natural. And I think it's just natural that with everything happening around the world, as we see colonialism as visceral, as brutal as it has ever been in front of us, in our screens, in the phones, in the TVs, it's just natural that we feel sad, that we feel angry, that we feel heavy. I think that's natural. It's just part of our beings to have those feelings. I think we should allow space to go through those feelings, not escape them, even though I have escaped them many, many, many times. And at times too, I have encountered a way to process and to even heal through creative expression. This has been a way for me to tend to my soul, to those unmaterial parts of my being that I cannot touch otherwise. When my leg and my back started hurting, I started doing physical therapy, exercises, right? Sit-ups, moving around. And it helped me. It helped me get better. But how do we stretch our soul? How do we heal those parts that we cannot touch? And I think the answer is similar. It's labor. It's through labor, through work. And by work, I mean the work of being in that space of feeling this and processing it and finding where it hurts, right? Recognizing that I'm hurt allows me to tend to that part of myself. And also, yes, the very physical labor of being present, of being here, of listening to my one another, to my comrades, to my friends, to my community, to being present. To being present when I'm choosing what to put in my body, what foods to put in my body. Not just what I'm purchasing, but also if I get the chance, what I'm growing, right? Which is very challenging, and it sounds very like a privilege to me. And I would like to extend a little further on this because as I was speaking on the Zapatistas earlier, I did mention this a little, but I was also reminiscing on how this is a multi-generational project. It's not been just, I mentioned 10 years. Those are the 10 years that the Zapatistas have been working in the mountains. But it's a multi-generational project. Our ancestors had been struggling before that. And then during the Mexican Revolution in the 1920s, which is where Zapata lived and was a revolutionary too, they were struggling then too. They were working. The whole thing of the Mexican Revolution was tierra y libertad, land and freedom. That's what they were calling for, land and freedom, because they understood that to feel good, to heal, they needed a good relationship to their land and freedom. And that project that started not just in the 1920s and also Zapatismo in the 1920s and then in the 60s through the guerrillas in the mountains of Guerrero, Oaxaca, or Chiapas, all those guerrillas that fought against neoliberalism back then, and then in the 2000s with the Zapatistas, are a multi-generational project, are a long, long, long line of people working to do the healing in defense of life. And then now, the Zapatistas have the pride to say that in their communities, no women goes missing. No women, and that's so powerful to say. It's just amazing to say it. No women goes missing. And it's no coincidence. It's meeting after meeting after meeting, education after more education and more education, and having uncomfortable conversations about why and how machismo and misogyny and why this hurts us as a community. And learning that it's not the one person, but the community that grew that person to hurt somebody else. And that if we wanted to heal those wounds, we needed to be present. We needed to be in those spaces, in those conversations. And it took so much effort and time and education. And then armed struggle even. But the armed struggle is just the tip, it's just what they show you. When they think about the guerrilla, they only show you the armed struggle, they only show you the covered faces and the AK-47s and the weapons. And that's just the tip. They don't speak about all the organizing, all the emotional labor, all the thought that went into growing that movement to heal, to defend life. And that's language that I took from them. This is not me saying, they themselves understand that their project is in defense of life. Water is life, and they defend their water. The land is life, and they defend their life. They seek to get their land back into their rightful hands so that they can take care of that land in a manner that not only benefits the people getting food from the land, but the land itself, so that the land can heal from all those years of poison that was poisoned. And as I picture this into your minds, as I'm saying how the Zapatistas did it, I'm not going to go further into that, but I would like to invite you to further expand your knowledge by looking up to the Rojava movement, the liberation of Rojava, how they did it there. The women there also did it through armed struggle. But it was not just the armed struggle, it was the organizing behind it that got them to the point where they have now their liberated zone. And they keep fighting for it to this very day. So when we say that other world is possible, we not only say that it is possible, we say that it's being lived. There's people who are living different worlds, different than this that we're living here, alternative ones, and many different ones. So when we say another world is possible, it's not just a promise, it's a reality. It's what people are living through, and it's not easy, and it doesn't look cute. It takes years and years and years of labor, and it is possible. So with that in your minds, with that in your heart, I'll invite you to close your pieces, to finish your drawings, your paintings, your writings, and anything you're working is just beautiful and perfect as it is. Of course, your experience of this is yours, is your own, and whatever you're creating, that is beautiful and it's gorgeous. I'm thankful to you. I'm thankful that you are here, that you are online, that you are creating something, that you are allowing yourself to partake in a creative practice. And the prompt for the next part is, how do we experience healing of our relationship with the land? How do we experience that undoing? What are we already doing as a people, as a human, as an individual, as a community? What are we doing to heal that? What does that look like? What would that look like if it's not happening yet? What would that look like in your mind, your ideas? Put that in the paper, please. And for that, we have 20 minutes. Let's do it until 12:45 so that we can close up, okay? Or actually, let's do to 2:40 so that we have 5 minutes to share, okay? Thank you. How are we doing? How are we doing? Are we ready to come back to the big group? For this closing section, I would only like to invite people to share. If you would like to share what you made today with the bigger group, that would be really nice. Feel free to explain or just describe or just share what you have in your mind. Would anybody like to share? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing, of course, you know.
Hi, everybody. So for the prompt, I wrote down that one thing that I'm trying to do is turn any green space into a vibrant garden and host offerings and workshops and conversations around reconnecting to the land and growing and just sharing different experiences of how we can appreciate nature and also honor what's already growing on that land, or if we transplant, to honor the healing abilities of the plants and just give appreciation to its nourishments, because land is very nourishing. And I love the way that you said that land is life, and it is so true from the different ecosystems, and what we can plant, what we can harvest is very, very nourishing. And so I think it'd be very important and essential if we start to turn as many green spaces as we possibly can into vibrant gardens, so we can give back to the land and also appreciate it a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing. I wasn't able to share the last prompt, but I'll share it now. Some of my wombs is the fact that I think I wrote a novel here, but it's just, I feel like I'm constantly reconnecting to the land. Like different spaces and gardens and farms that I go to, I feel like I'm always reconnecting and trying to learn what's growing here, what's the story, what's the context, you know, who was once a steward of this land. I'm always reconnecting to that space, and there's always this constant search of the knowledge, the truth, what happened here, what can I learn from this space, and how can I appreciate it for what is already here, not taken from it and not trying to implement what I want to it, but what can I learn from what's already here is one thing that is like a wound that I'm constantly feeling. And I'm very angry too. Like, I'm very angry. I'm very hurt that land was stolen and taken and sold and, you know, bartered and all these things. It's like, how can, we're fighting for something that was taken from us, and now we're demanding you give it back, and you're putting a price tag on it as if that makes sense to you. How can I pay you for something that you took from me? That makes no sense. Land should be given back freely. It should be given back absolutely freely, because it was once taken, stolen. So, yeah, it hurts a lot. And I also want to just say that there's a lot of hope of what we can do now. I love that you mentioned that, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably like less than 1% of how long the original stewards of this land compared to what's happened over the last 500 years. That's probably like less than 1% or something. So we can definitely change things around, but we have to organize, we have to rally, we have to come together to do it together, because that's the most powerful and effective way they'll hear what we want, is when there's enough people that say, yeah, we want this and we want this now. So.
Very powerful, very beautiful. Anybody else on this table would like to share? Do you want to share?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity, and I want to say I'm so grateful to be here today because it's my first time to have the opportunity to be here and learn about what Javier is doing. By the way, I'm his mom, and I'm so proud of him. And being here and see how he developed what he loved is something make me feel like I can do more. I know is like something is different, like the kids learn from their parents, but to me, I learn from my kids. And he is the best teacher I have because he taught me that I need to open my mind to different kind of things. And love the land is the first thing I need to learn because when we left our country, I thought I lost my land. You know, I don't have nothing here because it's not my country. And he taught me my land is when my feet are. And this is my land. And when he told me about our ancestors, they are here before we are. And we are not in different country. We are in our land. And I share with them, doesn't matter where we are. Maybe we're in China, but that is our land because this is our planet. This is our universe, and we are part of that. And I'm so grateful today to see a lot of different people take care about that and try to do something to take care about our land. And I learned about how we put a little bit every single day in our life. That makes something different. And that is how to start to put the seed, to talk each other, to broken the wall. Doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter what color we have, doesn't matter what country we're from. We are the same. And we learn to communicate each other about the preoccupation we have about our land. And that is the first step to do something different, to be together, to have the community, to work together.
Thank you so much. Anybody else in this table would like to share? You? No, you can. Oh, bien. Anybody else would like to share? Please, go ahead.
So, one of the wounds or grievances that I have, and I realize it's not with the land, but like with the government of this country, it's about migration. I came to this country in 2004 from Mexico, and I used to I'm involved in the immigrant community, in the movement, and just seeing the beautiful flowers where my country, they come always to Michoacan in Mexico and also in Tlaxcala. So it's a big icon for me, the La Mariposa Monarca. So became a big icon of the immigrant movement. And it took me time to realize that, I mean, the butterfly is beautiful and I respect it and love it, but it's not an icon of happiness. And migrating is not easy. That's why I put it like a space here, because migrating tears apart my soul. It tears apart my soul, my family, my traditions. And it took me a lot of time to, first of all, realize and then being able to speak about it and to speak about the injustices that this capitalism system is creating, is forcing us in different parts of the world to migrate. It's taking away from us our land, it's taking away from us our ways to survive in our country. So unconsciously, And consciously, sometimes we migrate and we come here and then become strangers in a different land. But then the healing part is that there is this metamorphosis, right? Like the butterfly has, is that we realize all what I say, but then healing, at least for me, is been building community. Healing, it's been like what Javi's mom say, mucho gusto, is, yes, we are here, but in this land there are traditions and there are ancestral process that are very interested and that are like, they have a lot of commonalities with my ancestors back in Mexico. And then how we can, I can start like research more and getting more knowledge and then bring my ancestors with me and learn what people in this land used to do, and then become one in this community. And yeah, so take the land means to like embrace ourselves and being community together, and then just keep fighting against this system that is oppressing us, that is trying to divide us. And so, yeah, thank you.
Muchas gracias, Fatima. Anybody else on this table would like to share about their piece or about their feelings? No? Do we have something in the chat, Gabi? Of course, go for it.
So a couple affirmations coming from Doris. This is so profound. Please schedule more of these healing sessions because the connections made today have been healing. And another comment, healing is building community, just affirming what you were sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And please feel free to keep sharing in the chat if you have any feelings, thoughts, ideas. Anybody else would like to speak on this table, on their piece, on their thoughts? Of course. You?
Kind of related to butterflies. We talked a little bit about the butterfly effect and how every small action we make has a ripple effect on the people around us, and that gives us a lot of hope.
Anybody else would like to share, please?
Yeah, I also just wanted to make an affirmation. I think that like this workshop in itself was a small step in healing for me, and I really, especially the way that you kind of allowed us to have whatever feelings came up, like to really explore the wounds before going to like the healing, before going to like the, you know, how do we want to be in relationship with the land? But I think just having that chance to even, like for me, even to really feel how deep those wounds go, I feel like there's not a lot of opportunities to do that and to take that seriously. Like, I was adopted and like came here when I was a baby, and I feel like that like kind of ripping away, and I realized like it's really like at the roots, like the whole root system that you're like disconnected from, and I hadn't really realized like how deep that goes. I think in that way, you know, and being able to do that in a creative expression as well kind of brought out new ways of looking at that. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for participating in a creative expression practice. Or more in the chat. Let's go.
So let's see. Just want to thank everyone who spoke today. So much for sharing, so much wisdom, kindness, and good spirits today. I feel very grateful and much less alone. Hearing from everyone made me think of my favorite piece of Zapatista wisdom. Between all of us, we know everything. Between all of us, we know everything. And then some more affirmations, exploring the wounds, the root system you have been disconnected from. This was discussed in one of our first breakout sessions. Great, thank you all.
Thank you, thank you. That was beautiful. Well, that concludes our program for today. And I appreciate you all for coming. I appreciate you all for engaging in creative practice. And again, like Malana mentioned, for allowing ourselves to feel the feelings. Because I think that is a very challenging thing to do sometimes. And allowing ourselves to go into those spaces, it's labor and it's also healing. It's healing labor. I would just like to open the space if people would like to say any thankful thoughts, if you like to share how your spirit is feeling after this workshop, or if you like to share, if you have any ideas or thoughts or clear steps that you are willing or thinking of taking after this workshop. I would like to remind you all that we did invite today Xochitl to speak on Save the Sound, which is a local organization doing work to take back those public spaces, which are parks, very important for our participation with the parks, with the community gardens. So if you are already a part of a community garden, kudos to you. If not, me myself, I'm not a member of a community garden. That is something that I would like to do. So I would like to open the floor for any thoughts, again, ideas about next steps, or anything you'd like to just share. Would anybody like to share?
We talked about like healing, like health related stuff, and I think we are thinking about like starting some kind of group where we like share knowledge around like healing practices, because we all were talking about different negative experiences we've had with like traditional medicine. So if anybody else wants to participate in that, come talk to me after this.
Just throughout this session, I like made this map, kind of. I don't know what to call this. Yeah, I just feel like there was a lot of really, really amazing stuff. And I think everything is like, it's very easy to get bogged down in the individual intricacies and complexities of like our day-to-day lives. But I think just recognizing that like we're not alone is really important. And I felt like a kinship with many of like all of you at this table, and everything that everyone else has said too. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, and yeah, we're not alone, and thank you.
I'm just thinking based off of what you said, just like phrases that come to mind, and it's like the earth remembers, and so kind of in that similar conversation that we had, and Sochi had mentioned earlier just about feeling like you can only work from a micro level and not being responsible for everybody, but being able to do a small part. And something that brings me peace in my healing is that I just know that like the earth is gonna do her part as well. And so just as much as she remembers the energy in these conversations and the fact that we're all meeting here today, we're all imbued with that same kind of wisdom. And so whoever it was that said it from the chat, that together we know everything, that other factor is the earth has also that same memory that we share symbiotically with it, and that brings me a lot of peace. And so the push that I got from my friend here is to share with y'all that I'm starting a project called Casa Verde. And so I'm gonna be building a greenhouse in New Haven within the next year. And I need a lot of community support, and I need a lot more ideas. And just based off of what Xavier was saying too, building lush gardens everywhere. And so that's the goal, let the earth take it back.
Anybody else here? Anybody here, please?
So gracias, Javi, por all the wisdom the knowledge, the feelings. I appreciate all the love. This was a workshop of love, so thank you. And thank you, Xochitl and Javi, Xochitl, for all the work that you are doing in Save the Sound, and not just Save the Sound, but in our community. And thank you for your young wisdom, because being so young, so knowledgeable and so active, it keeps inspiring me personally, and I hope everybody feels inspired too, so thank you. So I would like to invite you all, like in the Semilla Collective. I'm part of the Semilla Collective. This year we are celebrating our Festival of Resistance, is the 4th one, this year we are going to be doing it on Saturday, September 28th. And this is really tied to like a land back, and then thinking about that, because this year and a future Festival of Resistance, we are going to be celebrating the Day of Corn. And corn is a big tradition, it's a big roots for our culture. So we are going to have different activities during the Festival of Resistance on Saturday. But one of the main things that we are going to be doing is we are going to be doing art with corn, and any kind of expression that you guys would like to learn and share and all that stuff. So we are going to be sharing all that with you. So you are more than welcome to the Festival of Resistance here in Mazorca, by the way. So it's going to be here. And another invitation that I would like to do is like, did you guys hear today Javi playing Son Jarocho? Okay, well, you guys are more than welcome to learn. Music doesn't have frontiers, ni barriers, and anything. So you are more than welcome to learn Son Jarocho with us. We do have the collectives have some jaranas. This is the kind of guitar that Javi was playing. So please join us. And we usually rehearse, and we are learning. We are not like musicians. We are learners in the Son Jarocho tradition. So usually Thursdays, 7 o'clock around that time, and Sundays between 11 and noon. That's what we are doing. So we are learning, so you guys are more than welcome to join us. And thank you so much, Malana, for all the work that you do in our community. You are beautiful, you are awesome.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias. I think we are at time.
Just save the date, September 21st, here in New Haven at Common Ground, a workshop on the 1% of BIPOC farmers in Connecticut. So, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't skip anything on the chat, Gabi. We're good? Okay, well, I think that concludes our program for the day. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a safe drive home. And I think Malana will be emailing with people's contacts, or no? I mean, for the people who didn't get to speak to each other, so that they can connect with each other. Also, are there pictures? As you noticed, I was taking pictures. This was in the registration form, but if anybody would like their picture removed or their faces blurred, please email me or Malana. Our information should have been sent on the registration form. And also, yes, if anybody would not like their information shared with the rest of the attendants, please just let us know, because that way we can take that into account. That's it. Thank you.